All right, welcome to your deep dive into all things Ikigai, and today we're focusing on how to reach those, goals you've been thinking about, those big dreams. And to kick things off, we're taking a trip to Japan, the birthplace of this fascinating concept. So think of Ikigai as your unique reason for being, that sweet spot where your passions, your mission, what you do for a living, and what you're good at all come together.
It's like finding your own personal compass, guiding you toward a life full of purpose.
That's a great way to put it. And our guidebook for this journey is the Ikigai journey. It's full of practical advice on uncovering and actually living your Ikigai. And it uses this really cool metaphor to explain it all, a train journey through Japan.
Yeah, each stop on this journey, it's like it represents a different concept of practice that can inch you closer to your Ikigai.
I love that. And speaking of journeys, let's talk about those big goals. The ones that make people say, whoa, are you serious? Is that even possible?
Ah, yes, Shinkansen goals. The book uses the analogy of the Shinkansen, the famous Japanese bullet train, known for its speed and efficiency. It's all about pushing boundaries and thinking outside the box,
So not just any old goal, these are like next level goals.
Right. The book talks about E.G. Mikawa, the engineer who led the Shinkansen project. He was a real visionary, always pushing his team to come up with really innovative solutions.
And he had this unusual strategy for sparking that innovation, right? He would basically supersize those cost reduction targets.
Yeah. Instead of aiming for like a 5% reduction, he'd challenge his team to cut costs like by half, 50%.
Wow. Talk about setting the bar high.
Yeah, it might seem kind of crazy, but this approach forced everyone to completely rethink things, to come up with really out there solutions, and it worked.
It totally did.
Yeah.
And, it reminds me of someone like Elon Musk and his companies, SpaceX and Tesla. Those are prime examples of Shinkansen goals, like setting these seemingly impossible goals and then actually pulling them off. But how can we, regular folks, apply this concept to our own lives? I mean, most of us aren't trying to, colonize Mars.
Right. It's not about necessarily aiming for those huge, Musk-level goals. It's more about looking at areas in your own life where you might be playing it safe, holding back from something that seems, too big or too challenging.
Like what, for example?
Well, maybe it's that creative project you've been putting off, or that career change you keep thinking about but haven't made a move on.
So it's more about pushing ourselves beyond our comfort zones and being a bit more daring in our goals.
Exactly. And once you've set those ambitious goals, you need the guts and determination to actually see them through. That's where our next concept comes in, Ganbaru.
Now, I've definitely heard this word before, but I'm not sure I totally get it. What exactly is Ganbaru?
Well, it's a Japanese term that it captures this idea of perseverance, resilience, that commitment to keep going even when things get rough. Like
having that inner fire that pushes you forward.
Yeah, exactly. It's about having that fire that fuels you to overcome those obstacles and reach your goals.
The book tells this story about witnessing a young woman diligently practicing her tea ceremony skills in a Tokyo restaurant. It wasn't a fancy job, but her dedication was really inspiring.
It really shows this cultural value that's deeply ingrained in Japan, this idea of approaching everything, big or small, with that same level of dedication.
I'm thinking about all the times I've started something with so much enthusiasm and then kind of lost steam when things got hard. Where could a dose of Ganbaru make a difference for me, I wonder?
Well, maybe it's about finally sticking to that daily writing routine you mentioned, or maybe actually going to the gym consistently even when you don't feel like it. It's about channeling that inner Ganbaru to overcome that resistance.
So we've set our Shinkansen goals, and we're packing some Ganbaru. What's next on our Ikigai journey?
Well, let's talk about habits, those good ones and those pesky bad ones. They can either help you move forward or hold you back.
Okay, so we're pulling into the station called habits. The good, the bad, and the transformative. I have a feeling this will be a game changer. We all have habits, but, I'm not always great at seeing how they affect my life.
Yeah, think of them as the tracks that guide our train. Those good habits, they can smooth out the ride, while those bad ones, well, they can lead to derailments. Remember Steve Jobs and that black turtleneck he always wore?
Okay, yeah, I'll admit I've always wondered about that. What was up with that?
Well, it wasn't just a fashion choice. He was actually intentionally simplifying his routine. By wearing the same thing every day, he didn't have to waste energy on deciding what to wear, freeing up mental space for more important stuff.
That's actually pretty brilliant. I spend way too much time trying to figure out what to wear. Maybe I need my own version of the Steve Jobs uniform.
Yeah, Yeah, it could be anything that simplifies your routine and reduces those little decisions that drain your energy. Now, on the other hand, those negative habits, they're like viruses, that can really infect your life.
Oh yeah, I know those viruses all too well. Procrastination, anyone.
But here's the good news. You can actually reprogram those negative habits. The book delves into Charles Duhigg's habit loop model from his book, The Power of Habit. He breaks it down into 3 parts: the cue, the routine, and the reward.
Right. I remember reading The Power of Habit, but it was a while ago. Could you remind me how it works?
Sure. Imagine a journalist, right? And he realizes he has this bad habit of snacking at a certain time every day. Instead of fighting the urge, he decides to change the routine but keep the cue and reward the same. So instead of reaching for those chips, he uses that same time slot to, take a quick break and chat with a colleague.
Interesting. So he swapped a negative habit for a positive one, but without having to fight the initial trigger, he just changed the action itself.
Yeah, exactly. And by understanding that habit loop, you can spot those negative patterns and find healthier ways to satisfy those same needs. What's a small habit you'd like to change?
I'd love to stop checking my phone first thing in the morning. It's become such an automatic thing, but I know it's not the best way to start my day. Maybe I could replace that with a quick meditation or some journaling.
That's a great idea. Even small changes can make a big difference over time.
All right, we've got our goals, our Ganbaru, and we're tackling those habits. What's next on our Ikigai Express?
Well, our next stop is all about finding guidance on this journey. It's called Finding Your Senpai.
Senpai. That's a new one for me. Tell me more.
In Japanese culture, senpai refers to a mentor or guide, someone with more experience who can offer advice.
Like a wise sage who points you in the right direction.
Yeah, something like that. Everyone needs a little guidance along the way.
So how do we actually find our senpai?
Well, think about a skill you'd like to learn or a field you're interested in. Is there someone you admire who's already successful in that area? Could be an author, an entrepreneur, or even a friend or colleague with expertise you can learn from.
That makes sense. The book actually emphasizes how important mentors are, especially in Japanese culture. They observe that recent engineering grads in Japan were often less prepared than their international counterparts when they started out.
Right, but they caught up quickly because they were so willing to learn from their senpai. There's a big emphasis on mentorship and sharing knowledge.
That's really cool. It's not just about individual success, it's about supporting each other.
Exactly. It reminds me of this experiment called the Satori piano. This pianist named Antonio Ortonio taught students to play Bach's canon in D by breaking it down into super simple steps. And the results were amazing. Even people with zero musical experience were able to play this pretty complex piece.
Wow, really? That's awesome.
It really shows the power of good mentorship, breaking down complex things into manageable steps and providing support along the way. So, who could be your senpai on this Ikigai journey?
That's a great question. Maybe it's time to reach out to that author whose work I love, or reconnect with a professor who always inspired me.
Even a short chat, in person or online, can offer valuable insights. Don't be afraid to ask for advice.
All right, we've covered goals, Ganbaru, habits, and now finding our senpai. What else is on this whirlwind tour of Ikigai?
Well, next let's talk about embracing imperfection. Our next stop is kintsugi, the Japanese art of repairing broken pottery with gold.
Ah, yes, kintsugi. I've seen those beautiful pieces. It's not about hiding the cracks, but making them part of the beauty, right?
That's it. It's about seeing the beauty in those imperfections, recognizing that our setbacks and flaws are not something to be ashamed of, but part of our story.
Like saying, hey, I've been through some tough times, but I'm still here, and maybe even stronger because of it.
Yeah, it's a really powerful metaphor for the Ikigai journey. There will always be challenges, but it's how we handle them that shapes who we become. Kintsugi encourages us to embrace our flaws, learn from our mistakes, and see those cracks as opportunities for growth.
So it's not about chasing perfection, but accepting those imperfections as letting them be part of our unique journey.
Exactly, and this concept is closely connected to wabi-sabi, this Japanese philosophy of accepting things as they are, including their imperfections.
It reminds us that life is a journey, not a destination, and the beauty is often in those unexpected detours and imperfections along the way.
Well said. Now, before we move on, there's another concept tied to our ability to achieve goals. It's about how we use language.
Okay, color me intrigued. We're heading into the land of the power of words.
Yes, we are. The book dives into this fascinating world of neuro-linguistic programming, NLP.
I've heard of NLP, but never really understood what it was all about. It sounds kind of complicated.
Well, at its core, it's about how the language we use shapes our thoughts and actions. The book gives some practical examples, like swapping I wish with I will, or changing I don't know to I'll find out.
So it's about being mindful of our words and choosing ones that empower us instead of limiting us. Sounds simple, but I can see how it could be really powerful.
Right. And the book tells this inspiring story about Adachi Kichushi, a visually impaired musician who used the power of language to overcome adversity and achieve incredible success.
Wow, that's amazing.
It shows how the words we use, even the ones in our heads, can shape our reality.
I'm starting to realize that language is a much more powerful tool than I ever thought.
It's a tool we can all use to shape our thoughts, feelings, and actions, and ultimately our path toward finding and living our Ikigai.
All right, so we've learned about setting audacious goals, being persistent, mastering our habits, finding mentors, embracing imperfection, and now the power of language. What else can we expect on this Ikigai Express?
Well, in our next segment, we'll go even deeper into some powerful tools and practices from Japanese culture that can help you not just discover your Ikigai, but really live it to the fullest. So stay tuned.
And we're back on the Ikigai Express. We covered a lot in the first part of our journey, but there's still so much more to discover, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we're going to do in this next leg of our trip. We're going to dive even deeper into some really cool tools and practices from Japanese culture that can help you really discover and live your Ikigai more fully.
Awesome. I'm excited to unearth even more gems of wisdom. So what's our first stop on this leg of the journey?
Well, let's talk about the importance of Gashuku. And I know the name might sound a little intimidating, but trust me, it's a really fascinating concept.
Okay, I'm all ears. Tell me more about this Gashuku thing.
So basically, it's like this intensive training or workshop, often held in a secluded location. It's where participants really immerse themselves in a specific skill or subject, working together towards a common goal. Like a mini retreat, but for focused work and collaboration.
Okay, so like a creative boot camp, sort of.
Exactly. And the book talks about the author's experience, participating in a gashuku with colleagues. They spent a weekend at this traditional Japanese inn working on a project together, and they found it to be incredibly productive and rewarding.
It sounds amazing. I can imagine just disconnecting from everything and really focusing on a project with a group of people. It sounds pretty powerful.
It is, and it highlights the power of shared experience and collective effort. You're all in it together.
Right, like that saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Yeah, that's it. Sometimes it's not all about individual achievements. Sometimes it's about leveraging the energy and the skills of a group to achieve something even bigger than you could on your own.
Makes sense. So finding those opportunities to collaborate and learn from each other is a valuable part of this Ikigai journey then.
Absolutely. And speaking of valuable parts, let's circle back to a concept we touched on earlier but deserves a little more attention. Kintsugi, embracing imperfection.
Right, kintsugi. That art of repairing broken pottery with gold. I'm really fascinated by this idea.
Me too. It's such a powerful metaphor for this Ikigai journey. We're all going to hit bumps in the road, have setbacks, failures. It's just part of life.
Oh, tell me about it. I've had my fair share of oops moments, especially when trying something new.
It happens to the best of us, but what really matters is how we react to those challenges. Do we let them, crush us, or do we use them as opportunities to learn, to grow stronger? Kintsugi teaches us to embrace those imperfections, to see our scars and cracks as evidence of, our resilience, our capacity for growth.
I recently had a big setback in a project I was working on, and at first I was crushed. I just wanted to give up and start over. But then I remembered kintsugi, and I realized that instead of hiding the mistake, I could actually incorporate it into the design, and it ended up making the whole thing stronger.
That's a perfect example of kintsugi in action. You took something that could have been seen as a flaw and you turned it into a feature, a testament to your, creativity and resilience.
I know, right? It was a real light bulb moment for me. So instead of chasing perfection, we should be embracing those imperfections and letting them become part of our own unique journey.
Exactly. And this ties into the concept of wabi-sabi, which is all about accepting things as they are, imperfections and all.
It's a good reminder that life's a journey, not a destination. And the beauty is often in those unexpected detours and, those imperfections we encounter along the way.
Beautifully said. Now let's switch gears a bit and talk about something that might seem a bit counterintuitive in our always-on-the-go culture, the power of less.
The power of less. Okay, I'm intrigued. That definitely goes against what we're constantly told, right?
Yeah.
Do more, be more, have more.
Exactly. But the book argues that real fulfillment, that deep sense of satisfaction, often comes from simplifying, from really focusing on what truly matters. It's about quality over quantity. And it reminds me of that Pareto principle we talked about earlier, that 80-20 rule.
Oh, right, the 80-20 rule.
Yeah.
That idea that 80% of our results come from only 20% of our efforts. I remember thinking, wow, I'm probably wasting a lot of time on things that aren't really making a difference.
Yeah, I think we all do that to some extent. And the book shares this interesting story about a restaurant consultant who helped a struggling business owner boost his profits by, get this, 35%. And he did it by simplifying the menu.
By offering fewer choices, they actually did better.
They did. By focusing on the most popular dishes and getting rid of those that weren't selling well, they streamlined everything. Reduced waste, made customers happier.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. It really shows how sometimes less can be more. But how do we apply this principle to other areas of our lives, like beyond just a restaurant menu?
Well, think about your work, for example. What are the 20% of tasks that are giving you 80% of your results? Or your relationships? Who are the people who bring you the most joy and support? By figuring out and prioritizing that crucial 20%, you can create more space for the things that truly matter.
It's about being more intentional with our time and energy, making sure our actions align with our values and goals.
Exactly. And sometimes that means, saying no to things that drain our energy or distract us from our purpose.
Okay, the power of less. I'm definitely adding that to my list of Ikigai takeaways. Now, before we wrap up this part of our journey, I want to touch on the power of language again. We talked about NLP and how even subtle changes in our words can really affect our mindset, right?
Right. And this time, we'll look at how it can help us deal with those, those persistent negative thoughts that can sometimes prevent us from achieving our goals.
Oh, I know those negative thoughts all too well. They can be so sneaky, whispering doubts and fears.
They can, but NLP gives us tools to challenge those thoughts and reframe them in a more positive and empowering way.
So it's not about ignoring those negative thoughts or pretending they don't exist. It's about acknowledging them and then consciously choosing to shift our perspective.
Exactly. Like instead of saying, I'm not good enough for this, you might say, I'm still learning and growing and I'm going to do my best.
Right. It's about replacing those self-limiting beliefs with more positive and empowering affirmations.
And remember that story about Adachi Kichiuchi, that visually impaired musician? His story is such a great example of how using positive language, even in our own thoughts, can help us overcome obstacles and achieve our dreams.
Yeah, his story is really inspiring. It's a reminder that we have the power to shape our reality with the words we choose.
Now, speaking of powerful tools for self-discovery, let's talk about finding clarity through writing.
Ah, yes, journaling. I love the idea of journaling, but I've never been able to make it a consistent habit.
I hear you, it can be tough. But the book really highlights the therapeutic benefits of writing things down, and not just for processing emotions,
Right. I find that when I write things down, it helps me sort through my thoughts and feelings.
Exactly. It allows you to kind of, externalize those internal struggles, get them out of your head, and that can help you see things from a different perspective, gain clarity on your values and goals.
It's like having a conversation with yourself, but on paper.
Yeah, exactly. And that kind of self-reflection is crucial on this Ikigai journey. The book even suggests a really simple 5-minute daily journaling exercise. Anyone can do it.
Okay, I'm definitely up for trying that. Tell me more about this 5-minute practice.
It's super easy. Just spend 3 minutes in the morning writing down things you're grateful for and 3 things you're committed to doing that day. Then, in the evening, just take 2 minutes to reflect on any positive moments from the day and any challenges you faced, focusing on what you learned.
So it's like a built-in mindfulness practice.
Exactly. And speaking of mindfulness, our next stop is mindfulness and the art of presence.
Oh yeah, mindfulness. I've heard so much about it lately, but I'm not sure I totally get it.
Yeah, it's basically about being fully present in the current moment without judgment. It's about quieting that mental chatter and really tuning into your senses, your breath, your surroundings.
That sounds challenging. It's like we're constantly bombarded with distractions these days.
It does take practice, but even a few minutes of mindfulness each day can make a huge difference. The book connects this idea to the practice of Zazen meditation, which is common in Zen Buddhism.
Zazen meditation. I'm not familiar with that, but I'm willing to learn.
Yeah, it's all about bringing complete awareness to simple actions like breathing, walking, even just sitting.
You know, one of the authors describes this really profound experience he had in a Buddhist temple, just observing the monks going about their day. They moved with this incredible sense of presence, like a quiet grace and focus.
It's definitely a contrast to how many of us live, constantly multitasking, distracted, rarely fully engaged in anything. We're always rushing, our minds full of to-do lists and worries.
Oh, I'm totally guilty of that.
Okay.
So how do we cultivate this sense of presence in our own lives? We're not all going to become monks, are we?
No, not unless you want to. But we can incorporate mindfulness into our daily lives in small ways. What if you just pick one activity each day and do it with complete focus?
Okay, I like that idea. But how do we actually do that? I can barely go 5 minutes without checking my phone.
It takes practice, but start small. Maybe it's savoring your morning coffee without any distractions, taking a walk in nature and really paying attention to what you see and hear, or having a conversation with a friend and truly listening.
So it's about creating those moments of presence where we're fully engaged in whatever we're doing, no distractions, no judgments.
Exactly. And over time, those moments can grow and start to influence your whole life.
Okay, mindfulness, check. What's next on our Ikigai adventure?
Let's talk about something that can feel a bit elusive, but it plays a huge role in reaching your goals and, living a fulfilling life, the importance of timing.
Okay, the importance of timing. Interesting. Are we talking about astrology here?
Not quite. It's more about understanding the natural rhythms and cycles of life, both inside us and in the world around us, and, aligning our actions accordingly.
So recognizing that there's a right time for everything.
Yeah, the book uses the analogy of a farmer who knows the perfect time to plant and harvest crops. There's a rhythm to it, and trying to force it just doesn't work.
Makes sense. And this applies to so many areas of our lives, right? Like starting a new project, a relationship, even a big life change. Timing is at everything.
It really is, and the book talks about paying attention to both our internal cues and what's happening around us. Sometimes, the best thing to do is be patient and wait for the right opportunity.
I'll admit, patience isn't my strong suit. I tend to rush into things, try to make things happen on my own timeline, which sometimes backfires.
It's a common struggle, especially in our fast-paced world. But sometimes the smartest move is to wait, observe, and let things unfold naturally.
So finding that balance between patience and action, knowing when to wait and when to go for it.
Exactly. And that requires self-awareness, understanding your strengths and weaknesses and being in tune with the world around you, spotting those moments when opportunity knocks.
It's like that saying, luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity.
Perfectly put. Now, before we reach our final destination in this part of our Ikigai exploration, I want to introduce a concept that might seem a little unexpected, but it really embodies a lot of the principles we've been talking about.
Okay, hit me with it. What's this unexpected concept?
It's the power of Kyudo.
Kyudo. Okay, you've got me. What is that?
It's the Japanese art of archery.
Archery. Interesting. I wouldn't have thought of archery as being connected to Ikigai.
Yeah, it might seem a bit surprising, but Kyudo is about so much more than just, hitting a target. It's a practice that cultivates mindfulness, discipline, and a really deep connection between mind and body.
Oh, okay. I see where you're going with this. We've been talking about mindfulness and being present, right?
Exactly. And Kyudo is all about focus and precision. Every step in the process, from drawing the bow to releasing the arrow, it requires complete presence and intention.
It sounds almost meditative.
It is, in a way, and Kyudo masters will tell you that the target, it's not actually the goal.
Wait, if hitting the target isn't the goal, then what is?
The real goal is the journey itself, the process of honing those skills, of striving for excellence. It's about the discipline, the focus, the constant pursuit of self-improvement.
Wow, that's a powerful metaphor for the Ikigai journey. It's not about reaching some endpoint. It's about the ongoing practice, showing up, doing the work, becoming the best version of yourself.
Exactly. And the rewards of that journey are much greater than any external achievement.
Wow, I'm really starting to see how all these concepts and practices are connected. We've covered so much ground, from collaboration to timing, from imperfection to the discipline of Kyudo.
And in the final part of our episode, we'll explore even more fascinating concepts and practical strategies that can help you uncover and live your Ikigai more fully.
Welcome back to the Ikigai Express. We're nearing the end of our journey, but we've still got a few more stops to make.
And these last stops are all about those, practical strategies and thought-provoking ideas that can help you really unlock your own Ikigai and live it more fully.
I'm ready. We've talked a lot about the what of Ikigai, that sweet spot where our passions and purpose all come together. But I'm really curious about the how now. How do we actually go about finding this elusive reason for being?
Yeah, it's a question a lot of people struggle with. The book suggests a few different approaches. One is to take a trip down memory lane, think back to your childhood. What were those activities that really lit you up, that you loved to do, even if they seemed, silly or impractical?
I love that idea. I think as kids, we're often so much more free and uninhibited in our passions before we start getting bogged down by self-doubt and expectations.
Exactly. Those early passions, they can hold some really valuable clues about our true Ikigai, even if we haven't thought about them in years. It's like reconnecting with a part of ourselves we might have forgotten.
So it's about tapping into that childlike sense of wonder and remembering what brought us joy before we started overthinking everything.
Right. And another suggestion the book offers is to create what they call a negative list.
Negative list. Okay, I'm curious, what's that all about?
It's basically a list of things you absolutely do not want to do in your life. Might seem counterintuitive, but by getting clear on what you don't want, you can start to get a better picture of what you do want.
It's like a process of elimination, right?
Yeah.
Figure out your deal breakers, and that helps you narrow down the options. Focus on those paths that feel more aligned.
Yeah, exactly. It's about being honest with yourself and, recognizing those things that just drain your energy or make you feel unfulfilled.
Okay, negative list. Got it. What else can help us on this journey to discover our Ikigai?
Well, let's talk about a concept that's super important for achieving any goal, whether it's related to your Ikigai or not: Kaizen, the philosophy of continuous improvement.
Kaizen, yeah. I've heard that term, especially in the context of, business and productivity. It's about those small, gradual changes over time, not trying to do everything at once, right?
Exactly. And this philosophy is really ingrained in Japanese culture. It's about striving for excellence in every area of your life, but recognizing that progress happens, bit by bit.
And that approach feels a lot less overwhelming than trying to make these huge changes all at once, which usually just leads to burnout or, giving up.
Totally. The book gives the example of Toyota, a company that's been really successful with Kaizen, empowering their employees at every level to contribute to that ongoing improvement.
So it's not just about setting big, ambitious goals, but also about breaking those goals down into smaller, more manageable steps.
Right. The book recommends using a simple PDCA cycle to implement Kaizen: plan, do, check, adjust. You start by planning your improvement, then you take action, check the results, and then make adjustments along the way.
It's a constant process of trying things out and refining them, always striving to get a little bit better, even if it's a tiny improvement.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of Kaizen. It's not about being perfect, it's about making progress. It's about embracing the journey and knowing that even those small steps, when you do them consistently, they can lead to really big results over time.
Kaizen, I'm really liking this. Now let's bring back a concept we've already touched on, but it's so important to this Ikigai journey that it's worth highlighting again: kintsugi, that art of repairing broken pottery with gold.
Kintsugi, yeah. It's such a powerful metaphor for accepting those imperfections, finding beauty in the brokenness. We've all been through tough times, setbacks, failures, those moments where we feel like we're falling apart.
Oh, I know those moments all too well.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I have a whole collection of those broken pieces tucked away somewhere.
But kintsugi reminds us that those broken pieces, those scars and cracks, they're not something to be ashamed of. They're part of what makes us unique and resilient,
It's like taking those broken pieces and not just putting them back together, but really highlighting those cracks, making them part of the design, part of the story.
Yeah, exactly. It ties into that concept of wabi-sabi we talked about earlier, accepting things as they are, imperfections and all.
It's about letting go of that need for perfection and embracing the beauty in imperfection. I'm noticing this is a recurring theme in our exploration of Ikigai.
It is, and it's such a powerful shift in perspective that can really impact every area of your life.
Okay, before we wrap up this deep dive into Ikigai, I want to explore one more concept, something that can be really challenging but also super rewarding: the power of koan.
Ah, koan. Those paradoxical riddles or questions used in Zen Buddhism to make you think and question your usual ways of thinking.
I've always been intrigued by koan. They seem so mysterious, almost nonsensical sometimes. But I've heard they can lead to some really profound insights.
And what's interesting about them is that there's no right or wrong answer. They're designed to kind of, shake up your logical mind and force you to think outside the box, tap into your intuition.
Like a mental workout, right? Challenging your assumptions and helping you see things in a new way.
Exactly. And sometimes working through a koan can lead to this sudden flash of insight, a moment of clarity, that aha moment, which is known as satori in Zen Buddhism.
It sounds like a mental and spiritual breakthrough.
It can be, but remember, Kon, they're not about finding the right answer. They're more about the journey of exploration, the process of questioning and deepening your understanding of yourself and the world.
And that journey of exploration, that sounds a lot like the Ikigai journey we've been on in this episode. It's not about reaching the destination, it's about embracing the journey with all its twists and turns and those moments of insight.
That's a great way to put it. And as we're reaching the end of our Ikigai Express journey, I just want to leave you with one final thought.
Okay, I'm listening.
The journey to finding and living your Ikigai, it's unique to you. There's no one right way to do it. It's about being open to the journey, trying different things, and trusting your gut.
This has been such an amazing journey, exploring all these fascinating concepts and strategies for finding and living our Ikigai. I feel like I have a whole new set of tools to help me on my own journey.
And remember, your Ikigai is out there, waiting to be discovered. It's like a hidden treasure, and the journey to find it is definitely worth taking.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Ikigai. We hope it's inspired you to continue exploring. Until next time.